Students, for questions 1 through 4 on Unit 1 Worksheet 19, the directions tell you to determine whether the polygons are similar. If they are similar, you're to write the similarity ratio and a similarity statement. If not, just tell why they are not. I wanted to do another example with you just so you could see what we are wanting you to do on these problems. So to determine whether they are similar or not, there's two things you need to check for. Are the corresponding angles congruent? And are the corresponding sides proportional? So if both of those are true, then the figures are similar to one another. So to see if the corresponding angles are congruent, I can see the angle B and angle E both have one arc, showing that they're congruent. A and F, those angles have two arcs, so they are congruent. And C and D have three arcs, so they are congruent to each other. So we definitely have corresponding angles that are congruent. To see if the corresponding sides are proportional, we have to pay attention to which sides are corresponding to one another. So when I go to write my ratios, I'm going to go ahead and write them as image over original. I'm going to write my ratios in that order because that's how the scale factor will be written if they are similar to one another. So remember, the one that comes first is the original figure, and then the second one's the image. So since this one's on top, it's the original, and since this one's on the bottom, it's the image. Whichever one's on the left is original, the right is image. So when I write my ratios, I'm going to put these numbers as the numerators and these as the denominators. So I can pick any of these three sides to start with. So if I pick the one that's 6.0 in length, it's the longest side, so it's going to correspond to the longest side of the original. Plus it's between 2 arcs and 3 arcs of this triangle, so between 2 arcs and 3 arcs of the other triangle would be the side that corresponds to it. So I'm looking at the ratio 6.0 over 8.4. My second ratio, I could pick the 4.5 of the image. That's the middle side. So the middle length on this one would be 6.3, plus the middle sides between 1 arc and 3 arcs. Between 1 arc and 3 arc is the 6.3. And then finally, the smallest side of the image is 2.5. The smallest side of the original is 3.5. And again, that's between 1 and 2 arcs on both of the triangles. So then I'm just going to check and see if these are equivalent to one another on my calculator. So if I do 6.0 divided by 8.4, I get this long decimal, so that's an irrational number. And so then I do 4.5 divided by 6.3, which is also a non-repeating decimal. And then 2.5 divided by 3.5 is, again, that non-repeating decimal. Same exact decimal each time. So that tells me that my corresponding sides are proportional to one another. So my scale factor is this number, except I don't write it in decimal form. I want it in fraction form. So if I hit Math Enter on my calculator, I can get it in fraction form. And that is, I'm not sure if that shows up, is 5/7. So my scale factor is 5/7. These are similar, so I'm going to put yes over here. If they're not similar, just put no and tell why they aren't. Is it because the corresponding angles aren't congruent, or is it because the corresponding sides are not proportional? Once you know they're similar and you've written the scale factor, then you're going to write the similarity statement. Remember, we're going to name the first figure, the original one, in alphabetical order. So that's going to be A, B, C. And it's a triangle, so we can use the triangle symbol to name it. I'm going to use the symbol for similarity, which is the one little squiggly line. And when I name the second triangle, I want to make sure that I show the corresponding angles. So since A had 2 arcs, I'm looking for the angle with 2 arcs in the image, which is angle F. So it's the first letter. Angle B had 1 arc, so angle E is the second letter. And C had 3 arcs, and so does D. So you want to make sure those corresponding angles are in the same order. Please make sure your ratio, your scale factor, makes sense. We can visually tell that our original triangle got smaller. So it makes sense for my scale factor to be less than 1. If it gets larger, your scale factor should be larger than 1.